Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Me and my brother went and checked this out. We snagged an early screening here at our area, and we're going to be doing another dual review. So, as we always do, I'll be doing my thoughts and then I'll cut to my brother's just so you can see our perspectives of the movie. And that movie that we're going to be discussing today is Hoppers, which was, I believe, written and directed by Daniel Chung. I believe that's his name. Who, as far as I'm looking at in terms of credits, he doesn't have a whole lot in terms of, or he co-wrote the movie. He wrote the story, not necessarily the screenplay. Um, but as far as film is concerned, his only directorial effort is a film called We Bear the Bears, the movie, which is based off of a television series which I believe he helped create. But outside of that, he has been mostly a creative at Pixar. He's been helping out with films here and there, like, for example, films like Turning Red, Lightyear, Elemental, Inside Out 2, Elio last year, and he has credits for upcoming films like Toy Story 5, as well as Incredibles 3, apparently. This is, of course, also, as I've illustrated, the latest from Pixar. And as the story goes, this centralizes the plot around a girl named Mabel. And it's set in the town of Beaverton. And, for the most part, Maple's life has been surrounded by that of nature. She's, very much about preserving the natural order. She likes to make sure that any animals that are kept in captivity or just not getting the care that they need, she looks to get that care for them by getting them to the natural places that they need to be. And she grows up and she forms a specific relationship with her grandmother, who, at some point leaves this earth. And through that bondage, her passion for nature starts to develop even more so. And and now she is 19, and she is trying to combat or trying to resist the current mayor's uh, plans for building a bridge that will destroy a bit of the natural place of which she and her grandmother used to be at, but also predominantly of the species that reside in that area as well. And one day, when she tries to salvage the place that her grandmother and her used to be at, she stumbles upon a underbelly, so a project that is happening within her university, and she finds herself in a position where she sub merges her conscience with a cybernetic animal that resembles a lot like a natural beaver, goes into the environment and starts to talk to all of these animals and tries to find a way to assist them and try to preserve the natural order before things out of her control perhaps start to intervene. And along the way, she learns a lot about, compassion and about respect, but more so um, about, being considerate to the things that are around you. So if that sounded a little bit, wordy to some extent, I think that is some illustration of how I felt about the movie. But before I get into it proper, I think that for starters, Pixar as proper, lately has been, on the downward end. Financially speaking, they've been not, pulling as they used to. And I'm doubtful that a film like Hoppers is really going to resonate as heavily because just the nature of just people just in general nowadays, gravitating more towards the things that are familiar rather than taking a gamble with something like this. That was the case of Elio last year, and of Elemental. So we'll see how that fares for the movie. But as far as the film is concerned, though, I was concerned when I walked in because I had seen the trailer and there was a very energized atmosphere that was at play, and I just didn't know if that was going to really be for me. And I must say that it's tame to a point, and then it starts um, to to use the word that comes to mind. It starts to become more primitive, and I I feel as though that unfortunately kind of derails a little bit of what it's trying to do because ultimately to its core, which I had just illustrated, it is about the necessities to uh, being compassionate towards others, to bridging better relationships. I mean, there's kind of the obvious metaphor about the bridge that this person is trying to build and how that relates to the overall themes. You know, and in that there is, in my opinion, the biggest fault of the movie, which is that not only is it thinly plotted, which is the shortcomings coming from its screenplay, but it also just feels as though that the environment that it resides in just doesn't have a lot of meat to it and a whole lot of substance as much as it has a lot of noise. And that was my worry going into this. And unfortunately, a little bit of that was spilled over. And I feel as though that a lot of the metaphors that are taking place into the film are either blatantly obvious, like to that extent about the whole construction of a bridge. It's like we kind of understand what's at play there, or things that are lost in translation. Because when we get to her interacting with the animals, she strikes up a friendship with this other beaver. And at some point, the movie tries to coincide that relationship with what her relationship was with her grandmother, trying to kind of relate that to some extent. And I made a joke to my brother about it because it just felt as though there wasn't a whole lot of meat to that idea. If anything, it just looked like the beaver was her grandmother. I know obviously it's not doing that, but it's to say that it didn't have enough pull to really get me to understand the deeper understanding or layering. Understanding the subtext. It just doesn't have that sort of pull, and because of that, stuff like that don't necessarily feel as though that there is more understandings or more substance as much as it is trying but not succeeding. So the best way I can put it is that it's blatantly understood. Like exactly what the movie is trying to talk about, and obviously commentary revolving around nature and preserving the natural order. Things that are pretty obvious in that regard. Um, but I feel as though that the attitudes within its craftsmanship and the the overall just direction and wanting to move within this environment in a very specific way, I feel diminishes a lot of what it's trying to say. And it doesn't feel as though that we're coming to something that is, on one level, very consistent because like this noisy environment sometimes, just like there's just lots of noisy stuff, and it doesn't feel as though that we're really getting to much bigger places as much as it's just doing stuff because children, right? Or just because we, funny, we think that's funny, and it's, at least to me anyway, not. Um, there's that, and then it's just the considerations of its overall plotting, its overall thematic purpose. It just doesn't ring as much to me, and it feels as though that we are just kind of sitting within one specific idea, and a lot of that falls into the hands of that screenplay. Which I really think of all of the pieces to this, that is what I think kind of kills it the most is the writing, because it just doesn't feel like we're really getting any deeper. We're just scratching the surface to what we're trying to illustrate here, and it just feels very loosely connected. Like I said, there's things that they're trying to establish that don't feel as well earned because they didn't give themselves time or really plot things out correctly to where I can actually feel the weight of what they're trying to visualize. Like that whole thing about that the beaver, you know, and the relation to the grandmother. It's like, and also in terms of building character, our main protagonist in this movie, I don't really find myself that involved in. I actually think that a lot of her issues are self-inflicted. It's not something that is an issue of society, right, or an issue of this and that, and we don't really get an understanding as to why she is so troubled. I mean, there's some point of her loneliness and finding an innate purpose, perhaps her isolated, feeling, but it doesn't feel as though that is coming across, you know, like absolute. And again, it feels like a shortcoming. It doesn't feel like we're getting more to it. Like, why does she feel that way? There's obviously more to it. Why is the grandmother so significant? Why are all these things, like, what is it about, you know, um, what is it about her grandmother that makes her, think about her, the significance of the place, outside of just recognizing the natural order and the balance, and the compassion that should be found, you know, understanding that life is life, like it's basic, but it's not, um, it's not felt, if that makes any sense. And it doesn't really leave a lot for the plot to chew on either, as much as what it's already have consumed. So as it stands, it's it's just fine, but I think that it has a lot of shortcomings to it, and I wish though that it just had more to say and less less in the noise and more in the substance. And I think then you might find something genuine here. But as it stands, it just fell short for me. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Hoppers. I think it's okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's just very mediocre. And I will see how this does financially, but for me anyway, I just found it understandable, but then nonsensical at times, and then just falling into a line of absurdity that just doesn't feel earned. It just feels like again to that definition of just noise. It's just noisy, and I wish that it wasn't just that. Well, those are my thoughts on Hoppers. Now I'm gonna go swing it over to my brother, and we'll see how he feels about the film. So I'm gonna cut to him, and we'll hear his thoughts right now.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. At least for me, welcome back for me. And I forgot. Sorry. I'm gonna talk about Hoppers and Hoppers. Let me think. Hoppers was, if I had to say, was an okay movie, but it wasn't like the best. It sorry. It should have better writing and better stuff. To be fair, I don't know what to think of about much of it. It's like a basic story about caring for animals and caring for humans. For both should be not um not like destroy each other and stuff, because the movie's talking about um like sorry, I'm awkward, but it's sorry, I'm tired. I just ate a lot of food and stuff, but what happened was the movie's telling how about this person named Mabel, and um she loves animals, and her grandma taught her about the peace of nature and this and that. And then when she grew up, she've always wanted to find a way to protect the animals from the humans, like making more buildings and stuff. Basically, trying to say that they're destroying nature for the animals and stuff, so they don't have nowhere to live. So that's bad, and we should take care of the animals. So that's basically it. That's basically what the story is about. And I don't have much to say about it. I don't know much about the cast. I don't know much about what if they'll do a sequel or not because the movie just came out or it comes out in like March or so, I think. Because I got an early screening of it, me and my brother, but so yeah. Anyway, sorry if I didn't get a good review about it. I'm just like it's been like very tiring today, and plus it's super hot outside, and it really got me tired and stuff. So yeah. Anyway, um, I'll definitely do more movie reviews. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully for me, I can speak better this time because I guess today it wasn't for me today. Mm. Anyway, I'll see you guys for Mario Galaxy movie. Is there other movies I'm thinking of? I know Avengers Doomsday. I'm gonna say. Um, what else? I don't know. I don't know. Definitely like the big ones though. So yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
And those are our thoughts, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts on Hoppers when it hits theaters this Friday. And yeah, so I don't know what our next review will be. Probably Mario, I think. Probably Mario. So we'll see you guys then. When you guys let us know your thoughts on Hoppers and all things related to Pixar. How do you think it will do financially? We'll see how it performs this weekend. But until then, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, we will catch you guys in the next video. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.